So this knife was sent to me to check out and review by Lavender Pants 86. If you don't know who Lavender Pants 86 is, he is a huge supporter of our channel and we can't thank him enough. He's been a supporter of our channel for a very long time. He's a brother to us. We love him to death. Thank you, Pants. Can't thank you enough. Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared and this is the Trevor Burger Atlas, and he's a South African knife maker, and you can get knives like this because this is a custom knife for really good prices. Now this one's right around $5.50 for this one, but depending on what you get, you know, that price can be higher or lower. But for a full custom knife, that's actually an amazing price. We see production knives around that price. So, and these things are extremely, extremely well done. Let's get right into it. So we have an M390 full hollow ground blade. You don't see that very often. We'll get more into that in a second. Titanium scale. Now they do have other versions that are contoured. I think I personally would prefer this one with the flat sides. Not saying I would always prefer flat sides over contoured, but on this specific knife. And then it is a frame lock knife, titanium clip, pivot collar, back spacer. The action, the best front flipping knives I've ever tried out of any front flipping knife is Trevor Burgers. And let me just be clear, because there are some amazing front flipping knives, but hands down, the best ones I've ever tried are Trevor Burgers. These have the detent. It's so well tuned for the front flipping action. Now that's the one thing. So it's not going to have an extremely strong detent, but it's perfectly tuned for a front flipper. Now the next part about that is this jimping. The jimping is done extremely well. Now I did recently talk to somebody that got one, and theirs was a little sharp, but I talked to him about it, and I tried to help him out in figuring out how to knock it down. He's happy now, but I guess things happen, but for the most part, all the Trevor Burgers that I've experienced all had amazing jimping for the front flipping action, which made it to where the action was insane. Now, the lock bar is really easy to get to, and it feels very comfortable. They chamfered this edge right there, so it's so nice to get to, and very smooth on the drop. Not false shut action, but extremely smooth. You have great placement for the front flipper. And like I said, that detent, breaking that detent since the jimping grips your finger so good. They're hard to fail. They are hard to fail. Now, like I said, man, the way everything about this knife, is just very, very well done. Now, I can also easily top flip it like that, and you have these little grips right here where you can place your two fingers, wrap your one finger around, and pull it. Now, another way to deploy this knife, which I have found on every single Trevor Burger knife, is I can reverse flick it. I can reverse flick this thing so easily. I can do it with my ring finger. I can probably even do it with my pinky if I really tried hard enough. Well, now I got to get it right. See? And there's only a couple knives out there that I can also do that with my left hand. Since the lock bar is so small on this side, it makes it where I don't have to put pressure on the lock bar. I can put it right over these little pads and back. No, I messed it up. Of course, under the camera, I'm going to mess it up. It's very easy. It really is. I've got a camera arm in front of me, so I'm like turned sideways like this trying to do it. But trust me, guys, it is extremely easy to reverse flick this knife. Now, even the satin finishes, I found that on. So this one's extra easy because of this heavy, heavy stone wash and because of the spine, because it's a full hollow. But I was able to do that on other Trevor Burgers. So I actually prefer doing it sometimes like that over the top flipper, even though the top flipping action is so good. Now the Ergos, very neutral. You can see how it's basically set up perfectly for a hand. Very, very comfortable in the hand, even in like if you were going to cut straps, very, very comfortable. The Ergos are just set up for a knife, and I like that. I like that I choose where my fingers go, how close I get to the blade, how far away I am, pinch grips, all of that is great on this knife. It has a great thickness and depth for my hand personally. Now the jimping is back here, but you can, I guess, do the little pinch grip right there. But you know, if your finger goes over it, not a big deal. Now, getting into cutting, because you know the Ergos matter a lot in cutting, and because the leverage is so good, then we get to this beautiful M390 with, it's a custom knife, so we got a custom heat treat, but the full hollow ground blade, you can see that the spine thickness up here, it stretches out to about right there, but it's pretty much a 100% full hollow grind. It cuts great. I measured this one about 15 thousandths behind the edge, and considering it has a full hollow grind and the leverage you get behind the cuts, it is a fantastic slicer, especially for not being a, you know, a real large knife, something that you're gonna get a massive grip on. So you expect good geometry out of this, and you do get it. It cuts great, fantastic cutter, lots of leverage in the cuts, and the blade passes through materials very, very, very nicely. I'm happy with the way it cuts. I think that this is a great sized EDC. There's so many great things about this knife. So yes, great cutting. Now, you know, considering its blade shape, you already know this thing is going to be a utility cutting beast. And then when you look at that tip and you see how it's not dainty, so it's not like a tip you're gonna be worried about using, but it's just acute enough where, or it's like the perfect acuteness where this thing is built for utility cuts. It's a laser. I mean, it's kind of like a claw, right? You can just hook onto something and pull back, and you are going to do, you know, damage. You're going to be able to cut tape, cut things out, open packages up, slice this, slice that. It works great. Utility cuts are fantastic. When I was cutting the cardboard for this video, the cuts were so fine that the cardboard didn't even look like it's separated. Even though it was cut all the way through and through. So it lets you know, like having that full hollow on there with a utility cutting type of blade shape, what it can do, man. This thing, yeah, cuts really, really good. Now, you do have the spine thickness up here. So, that some people would say that that's going to create a little bit of drag since, it, has the hollow where it tapers down into the thickness behind the edge, but not a lot of drag on this thing winds up making it to where it's easy to pass through materials. Now if we get into some of the finer details before we get into the clip, this thing has a lock bar insert, a nice big solid lock bar insert. There is no milling on the inside. The clip has a pattern on it that's separate from the scales. And everything's rounded and contoured really nice. But getting into the clip works great in and out of the pocket. No complaints on the clip. I'm happy with how the clip works. And yeah, slips in and out of the pocket just fine. It's not deep carry, but it's also not like extra shallow or anything. So winds up working out great in and out of the pocket. No complaints on the clip, and it feels pretty good in the hand too. So yeah, great clip, great clip. Oh yeah, you can do this one too. Bam. Very easily. Now, some complaints really quick, and then I want to speak just a little bit more about it. So, and we'll do some size comparisons against some other customs. So we have small hardware. I do not like small hardware. it's just, you know, especially when you have it where it's only going through one side. Now, if this strips out or something, I mean, you're screwed. There's nothing else holding your knife together. These are small. Now, they're deep. Okay, they're deep, which is great, but I'd rather see T8s. South Africans really like their small hardware. I think they think the hardware looks ugly. So, in my opinion, I think they look great because it shows me how strong and how well built the knife is. Small hardware on the clip as well. So it's a South African thing. Now, next thing, we have the stop pin here. You can see it is the opening stop pin and the closing stop pin. I'm not a big fan of that position of a stop pin for the closed because it goes right here. You can see actually the line where it hits. Now, this one's not that big of a deal, but I prefer stop pins to be up here or just up higher or maybe lower, because let's say we sharpened off a lot of steel and we've gotten to this point. I can't put in a new choil there. I would have to avoid this area back here and put it in over here. But it's really not that big of a deal because this one's well placed, and that is a ton of steel to have to remove before you get to that point. So I doubt that will ever be an issue for any of these knives. But the next thing does go to the sharpening or the plunge grind. It's okay. It's just not great though, because the plunge grind starts here and it ends about right there. So yes, you do have enough room to get a couple good sharpenings on it, and you will be just fine. However, once you get past right there with steel, you are going to start creating a smile. And because of where the stop pin hits, you can't cut in your own choil. So that's kind of the thing. Now, like I said, you do have enough room to get a couple good sharpenings in, if not a few. So it's not that big of a deal. It should be just fine. As long as you don't break the tip off and have to remove steel or anything like that, it should be just fine. And being that it's a, you know, M390 done by Trevor Berger, I would love to sharpen this steel and see how it feels. But man, it still has a pretty keen edge. I did hone it and strop it up, and it honed and stropped back like that, like nothing. I mean, so fast, so easy, which, you know, you don't want to remove steel that you don't need to, you know, unless if you want a nice fresh edge, because, you know, the more you hone and strop, the less longer that edge is going to last. It's just the way it goes. You know, yes, you should always hone and strop your knives, but eventually you do have to sharpen. Next thing, you know, this isn't that big of a deal either. All these are nitpicks, big nitpicks. But the lock bar is pretty tiny, you know, and with this little lock bar, you can see the lock face, how tiny it is as well. It's a very small lock face. Now, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I am nitpicking like crazy, but, you know, I figured I would, you know, kind of talk about it because people might consider that a negative. But I will say, strong lockup, very solid. You wouldn't think that it was weak at all from feeling it and touching it. And the lockup, like, it locks right in, even if you go extremely slow. So, you know, the lock face geometry is great on this, but the lock bar and lock face are rather small. However, I mean, it's not a hard use knife, so I'm not even saying that's a negative thing, but some people might look at that as a negative thing. You know, after getting it in hand and feeling it, I do not, but you know, I figured I'd at least bring it up. We got the Trevor Berger, the TBC inside there, where you can see it. Let's check out, because I can't, that's basically all the negatives, really. And there's a lot of different styles of this. So, you know, like I said, they have the contoured version. They have different finishes. I'm sure different steels and everything. Let's look at this thing next to a couple other customs that I have in for sharpening. We'll take a look at their edges too. We have the Andre Bernard L48 here. Beautiful knife. It took a screaming sharp edge, if it'll ever come up on camera. And these are a great, or it is a great size comparison. This one is slightly smaller, but I don't want them to hit each other. But yeah, you can see this one's slightly smaller. This is such a great EDC size. Next, we have a brown Cortex V2. Took a fantastic edge as well, if it will pop up, but the camera does not like to focus on things like that. It's because of the mirror stone wash. The edge looks really good. These two are perfect size comparisons. They are basically the same size. The Atlas might be a pinch longer, but they are extremely close to one another. Both amazing knives. Fantastic knife. Next, the Cosi Steenkamp Breeze. I had to put my fingers in the way. It took a great edge. Nice flat edge bevel. You can see they are, if I can back it out, you can see they are very close in size. And this is also another great custom knife maker that you can get great knives for a very reasonable price. Also another South African knife maker. So if you're looking to get into custom knives, great front flipping action as well, and thumb stud action. And like I said, you can get these for a good price. And we'll just do one more. This is not a custom. The Sharp by Designs Typhoon took another fantastic edge. Come on. Doesn't like, there we go. Yeah, took a great edge. But this one, the Typhoon, is a little bit longer than the Atlas. Not by much. So another great size comparison. They are right in the same ballpark, but this is definitely beefier and bigger. But all in all, though, what an amazing knife. I really like these knives. I think Trevor Berger does an amazing job. Like I said, I think it's one of the better options to get into for a first custom, because you can get them for such a great price, and that's not always going to be, you know, his prices are going to go up because he does such amazing work. So, you know, get them while you can. And like I said, they come in many different options, and detents are so well tuned. What a fantastic knife. Lavender Pants, thank you for letting me check this out. Peace.